you know, used to go there with AA, and then every year they have a big one, a big event, like an ice cream and dessert thing for all the people who do service and all the inmates that get the service, whatever. So I was going to be the main speaker, and then there was 3 people spoke before me. They were all convicts, and they were all in there for vehicular manslaughter. They killed people while they were drinking and driving. Yeah, it was amazing, really. And I sat with a guy who was there for life. And he, you know, that situation got him into reading books about non-duality. So they do have a very clear idea. Yeah, we sat there before the talk for a while. They had all these, it's like in a chapel with the, with the pews. Yeah, it was pretty good. But I like the, hey, no one's checking the door. What happened? Somebody got in. John God got in. Yes. Hey, we may need another. Can you just bring another chair here, bro? Right in here. Yeah, thanks. Right there. Who's ever sitting here, we're gonna see a life story of them up there. 20 minutes. Yeah. Any life run on self-will can hardly be a success. All little short stories. Oh, wait a minute, I gotta pay attention here. What's the time?
3:59 or 1 minute before the hour.
All right, great. No, he's got someone else helping him. Yeah, he's got Kerry, I think. Usually people come in a little late and then we'll just start. So, well, this idea, what we speak of here, framed as non-duality, but it's really looking at the activity of duality, not just the concept of it, but to be able to see the dualistic nature of what you call you. Yes, because you, sometimes you're thought about, which would mean you're an object. Yes, and sometimes you're the thinking. So you're the doing the thinking, which would be the subject, and then you're the thought about, which would be an object. Yes, that's duality. Subject object. Non-duality is just a negation of that. Yeah, there's no non-duality. It's not, you know, how can you describe whatever? But you can know duality. So by knowing duality, and I don't do this having an understanding, it'll drop. And when you see what you're not, you get a sense of what you are. Yeah. And you'll realize that one of the main obstructions was you as what you are, looking for what you are. Yeah. And what fuels this idea of looking for what you are is the idea that you're not. Yeah. Doesn't change the fact of what you are, but there's a belief you're something else, and that something else has looked at maybe a lot of stores that find relief, and it ends up maybe at the last store block, which is, let's say, the spiritual block, and the last store on the spiritual block is non-duality, in a sense, really. It usually ends up there. So here you are, and nothing seems to be working. I mean, you get relief and you get new camaraderie, and you have better friends, let's say, or you're hanging out with people that you're not getting arrested and shit like that. But there is something going on. And the answer that non-duality offers is why all this confusion and stuff is going on is because reality is taking itself to be something else. Yeah. And now it's looking for reality as this something else. But in fact, what's looking is reality looking for reality. Because the idea of you, no matter how much you believe it or don't believe it, it doesn't matter. It's not true. Yeah. So we are reality. And most of us have been in a mistaken idea of that, which is calling it Paul. Yeah. And from Paul, here, bro. You're here. Yeah. So from Paul's troubles and tribulations or suspicions or yearnings or something caused them to start looking for reality because nothing else seemed to be working, all the while being reality. Yeah. So if you try to convince Paul not to look for reality, it doesn't go anywhere. But if you can just share to reality that it's not Paul, that goes. So you may have heard a lot of talks, but this is specifically a direction of the talk. I don't have any interest in describing the indescribable. I do not. I do not believe all you are is consciousness, because what hears that is what you're not. Yeah. The most important part of the message is the secondary message, is who heard the message. That's more important than the message being heard, because the message being heard is going to trigger the claiming of the hearing of the message, and it's going to be you. You'll be presented as the hearer of the message, and that's the biggest obstacle to the message. Yeah. So there's hearing going on, and then very quickly, it needs time though to do it. So it is of time, and we're not literally, but there is hearing, and then there's a claiming of the hearing by the mental activity to imply the hearing implies a hearer. Yeah. Once the hearing is presupposed as before the hearer is before the hearing, you've neutered the message of hearing. Yes. So no matter how many times you hear the message, as the hearer of the message, you may get an intellectual understanding. You may be able to use it to get out of some responsibilities here or there. Hey, there's no Paul, I didn't do anything like that. But it's not going to really translate into a traveling lighter, because it's not true. It's not working. Yeah. So the hearer is still being sustained by the claiming of the hearing of the message. Yeah. And the hearer of the message, it will lead to some absurd situations where you'll try to be a non-self as a self. Yeah. So your idea from a self, what it would look like to be a non-self, you start aspiring to that non-self self. Don't you see the insanity of it? It just provokes more fucking shit. And the weird thing, I was listening to in the wars, in the news and stuff, this idea of woke. Yeah. They're really getting everywhere. The first time I ever read that it mimics the idea that I had was when I first gave a talk at Urban Guru Cafe from Australia, like the early days, like when I first started giving talks. I had no idea who they were. They had a plan of talking to 100 people, 100 talks, and that would be it. So there was a guy named Gilbert and a woman, I forgot her name. She got in touch with me. So I said, yeah, sure. So she interviewed me. And after the interview, I went to the site. I hadn't seen the site, Urban Guru Cafe. And I went, and there was other people had spoken before me. I wasn't the first one. That got me upset. I wasn't the 100th one, which made me feel better. So I went to the comments of the talk, of other people's talks, and it was like a lot of non-dual dueling. If you mention I, me, my, you were out. I swear, any personal pronoun at all, ding, the next comment would be, that's not it. So this, I swear, I think this is, it was like that on steroids concerning non-duality in the 90s. I swear, you had to watch out if you said I, me, my, and I'm going, man, what? And so it was like, they were like Pharisees in a way. They had the letter of the law, but they didn't have the spirit of the law. And I think that's what most people are flipping out about. Yes, in a sense. So you're ready to correct if you say the wrong thing. This is happening in non-duality, like a huge amount in the 80s and 90s. Yeah, Gilbert Schultz. I don't know. I didn't deal with him. I dealt with her. Yeah. I think I did 2 for them. But it was just amazing. I went down and go, wow, this is insane. They were like battling, and they had like, a couple of people kept saying, fighting it out in a non-dual duality. Cha, 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 cha. Oh, it's incredible. So this is what I mean. When the head gets non-duality, that's not getting non-duality. Yeah. You may have to go through a period where the head has believed it's gotten non-duality. It's gonna be a finite stage, it's gonna drop, and the infinite can wait it out. Yeah. but you're probably going to go through it because I remember one of the first things I did, I got introduced to it. I was living in Australia. My girlfriend was going to go out with a friend. She asked me to do the dishes. She came home. The dishes weren't done. She said, Paul, didn't I ask you to do the dishes? There is no Paul. There are no dishes. And she said, fuck you, do the dishes. So I grew out of that. I grew out of that wokeness quickly. Quickly. Now, some people may get caught in that loop for a while. Doesn't matter. It's going to end. It's finite. See, the mental state can huff and puff. It's not going to hold its breath longer. Yeah. So if you just don't fucking act out and don't do any things, things are going to change. Yeah. Because like Ramana, a great master, Ramana Maharshi, he talked about after you hear satsang, let's say, you may believe you're in some location, but he's
You're muted, Paul.
That was me.
I
Sorry.
just did it. I just unmuted. Yeah. You missed it. It was beautiful. All right. So we'll come back next week. So this whole idea, I heard it. I went to satsangs when I was in the 90s, I think. I had gotten introduced to the Course of Miracles. Non-duality just seemed to be before that in a way. So once I hit non-duality, after a few weeks of listening, read a book or two, I had a feeling in my gut, like an unspoken yes, and like, this is it. And this is like a knowledge before acquiring knowledge. So it was an answer that was quite unique and different than the other answers I had come up against, because most answers tend to have a lot of maintenance sooner or later, or you got to add an extreme to it, or a radical to it, or a supercharged to it, where nothing new is in non-duality. It's just an absence of all that we think is present, so to speak. Yeah. And what we think is present is an appearance to us as that ultimate absence, in a way. Yeah. We're seeing the appearances. The appearances have no meaning other than what we give them. Yeah. Because if they were real, they could bark at us. Yeah. But because they're not real, we give them meaning they have, or as they say in Buddhism, emptiness. So everything is empty of any reality other than the reality we give them as reality. Yes, it's dreaming. So this is what non-duality presents. And of course, the head will claim to be the hero of it, and they'll think, what does this mean to this head? And it comes up with some doozies. Yeah. And then you go through some of those mistakes, and then something drops in, and then it becomes like an unspoken yes, or like, I'm never going to ask another question. You see the futility of you as what you're not trying to get it. You just do. You realize you're never going to get it. And it's good news. It's like a hallelujah, where it sucked earlier when you were wanting to get it. You realize you're never going to get it. You can't experience it. You can't have it. You can't lose it, which is quite nice. Yeah, it's in a different realm than we're aware of, because we think we encapsulate the being realm, but this isn't being. This is appearing. Yeah. And it appears to be now by remembering it appeared to be before and after. It doesn't have any immediate light of its own. It's reflected. Yes. So this thing, it's just a. So how it led me was to this point of, if you don't see this claiming of the head, after you've had that moment of seeing your clear reflection in the pond and you're a lion, yeah, no matter how long you thought you were a sheep, or how many people thought you were a sheep, it was a fact that you've been a lion the whole time. What happens when that old lion splits and the young lion's left on his own and walks away from the pond? What's going to happen is the mental state's going to regroup and arise and claim that revelation that you are a lion, and make it, I had an experience of being a lion as a sheep. Yes. It's going to be a quick transfer. And now you're reestablished in the sheep programming. So what you had a sense of being that, I had an experience of it. And of course, the head desires that an experience. The head's greatest desire is of its own absence, but it can't figure out how to be there to get that. Yeah. But its greatest desire is to feel like it feels when it's absent, being present. It's driving it crazy, seriously. So this thing is, if you had an understanding that no matter what peak experience it was, no matter how big the bush that was burning was, no matter how long it lasted, if it came to an end, if you're there, the mental state is going to claim it. And it's going to try to position you, triangulate you as a body that had this event and is this primary thing called the sheep. Yeah. And it doesn't matter what venue you're in. Temple, 6th and Market, it doesn't matter. It's going to claim whatever you and I bring it into contact with, which is that conscious drive that's moving us. Yes. So we're in a state of conscious contact, and what we contact, the mental state arises and claims that contact and uses it for its own little story. Yeah. And its story is, though a noun can never be found, there's a noun. Yeah. So all the verbing, that's the only thing that's going on. There's no noun ever to be found. It claims the verbing to imply there's a noun. This is what? Non-duality, right? This is duality. Verb, noun, duality. Yes? Verbing, non-duality. So when you start seeing life is happening, you can really start seeing the programming of life is happening to me. Yeah, your sight gets reestablished. It was never lost, but it gets reestablished. You borrow a pair of glasses, like a non-duality understanding, but it does correct, and you don't need the glasses. You can see. Yeah, and now you see that whole story of a life happening to me from life happening. Yeah. You don't see life happening to you from life happening. You see that all the time as life's happening to you. But you can see it from what you are, and you recognize it with this simple understanding that that may not be me. So what happens when you negate that? There's a reinforcement of the truth. Yes. And the negating of the assumed truth brings about a reinforcement of the real truth. Yeah, not the real truth, just the truth. Yeah. So I get to know in a weird way what I am by seeing what I'm not. This is what we present here. We don't present how to, get yourself located in that pond with the old lion and then get that whack. That happens. You're going to have those free samples. How can that sustain itself in this dreaming? How can you travel lighter? Not based on that event, but based on what that event revealed, which you are a lion. That to me is the traveling lighter as the sheep. You appear to be a sheep, you're living like a sheep and all this, but you're a lion. It's beautiful. You're not trying to become a lion because you're not a sheep. Yeah. So it's not effort. I'm not working. I'm not going to lion roaring classes. I'm not trying to, uncurl my sheep hair and shit and make look like a lion more what I think. No, the sheep goes on and on. All day it looks like you're a sheep, but there's a knowledge before acquiring this knowledge of being a sheep. There's a knowledge I am a lion. Yeah, that knowledge is before the acquired knowledge you're a sheep. And that can negate the acquired knowledge. The acquired knowledge ain't going to negate the acquired knowledge. The knowledge that's before all the acquiring of knowledge. Yeah, that knowledge, just like we've been harping on it lately, because it's right now it's working for me as a way of presenting something, which is the idea of when you go to work, do you forget you have a house? Let's say I live on Wilmac Avenue. I go to work in the city. Do I forget that I have a place to live? Do I have to chant like every hour? I have a place to live because I'm in the city, I'm at work, I'm not seeing my house. Yeah, I don't have any there's not pictures of it flashing everywhere. You have a house here, but there's a knowledge I have a house. I walk out assured that I have a house, at least for that day. Yeah, assured. No, and so when I go to work, I'm not chanting I have a house. I have a knowledge while I'm at work. Now, if I spend overtime, does more time cause me to forget that I have a house? No, the house is there. If I work in Europe, will it fit? No, I have a knowledge. That's not a dualistic knowledge. This isn't like, until I see it, I won't believe it. It's knowledge before seeing shit. Yeah. There's a sense of home, and let's talk it as the being. Yeah. So while there's all this shit going on all day, I'm not losing that sense. My head says I've lost the sense, but I'm not the fucking head. Yeah. It's a simple thing. Early on, when I was at the course, it was clear the body was some kind of obstacle. Yes, that it came to that in my studying. And so there was a lesson that I really harped on, which was, I am not a body, I am free, I am as God created me, something like that. So I sort of like chant that for a while, Yeah. And I'd be there, and then it was revealed that the only thing that would chant it's not a body is the body identity. So the body identity was chanting it wasn't a body, which was reinforcing the body identity. So I saw a beautiful principle glaring where I didn't have to see it 800,000 more examples. I saw it and it expanded to the principle. So what wants to get out of me is the me. So self can't get out of self. Very important statement in recovery. It's not in the big book. It's out of observation of people who tried to do exactly that. Unbeknownst to them, they were identified as self. And then they had an aspect of thinking they had objectified self, and they were busy trying to get out of that self as self. And it wasn't working, nor will it work. This is just it's the same, one of the same aggravating equations of non-duality. Yeah. That desire to feel like it does when I'm absence of self as self being present. It's a desire it doesn't want to give up. Like we have a couple of them in recovery, which one of them is the delusion that if we only manage better, it would work out. After we have tons of evidence, the managing has not worked. We just put blinders on all that evidence. But if I only do it better, it will. Yeah. So this is the same thing. Self hears about the great party, goes there. As soon as it gets to the party, it sucks. And now it's trying to get to the party and have it be great with it there. So self is trying to experience its own absence. It wants to be, this is why people call me and they tell me they've disappeared. What's telling me they've disappeared? Self. Yeah. So self had gotten as close as it could to its own absence. It was having an experience. I've disappeared. Now I'm going to tell everyone. I've been disappeared for a few weeks. You see it? This is the mental drive. How are you going to see it if you keep feeding it? Just watch it reach and don't give it anything. And you'll see the emperor with no clothes on. You'll see the rawness of desire that's never going to be requited, never going to be fulfilled. Yeah, you are never going to be a self, ever. You are something already. Your nature is not of self. Your nature is not of what comes and goes. Your nature is not of one that's affected by everything else. Your nature is not of that. No matter how much you huff and puff, you are a nature already. And it's not encompassed as a body that was born one day is going to die another day. It's the living awareness. It's the door is always open right here, which is the I am. It's the gateless gate. Yeah, it's the open secret. The problem with us is we don't see the head using the I am to infer Paul and Bill and Sue. So it's constant reminder that verifies the story is the I am. What you're feeling as presence, you call it Paul or Steve or Clint. Yes, you don't see it. Then Clint wants to find the I am. It's the I am being clothed as Clint. So that's why it doesn't work. That's why the only way to arrive at where you already are is through negation. Yeah, it's not like you add the miles to get closer to the thing, you negate the miles, and then you finally arrive and it tells you on having never left. You see? So all of your distant, imagined, I've got to do this to get there, doesn't apply to where you already are. There's no getting there. You haven't been removed to atone for or make up for or to use meritocracy to get the key again. You've never lost the key. Being is being is being is being is being. It doesn't matter how much you believe you're not awake, you're doing that on a basis of awakeness. And no matter how much you believe you are awake, you're doing it on a basis of awakeness. But what your condition is on this level has nothing to do with the condition. Yeah. You can seemingly be awake to it. You can seemingly be asleep to it. People think they go through all day. I was awake to it at the meeting, then I went to sleep at the firehouse, and I've been sleeping for a couple of weeks. Now I'm awake again. This is all surface chatter. It doesn't change the awakeness. That's the beauty. This is what you finally come to. You finally lose interest in all of the mental fallacies being flung around. You do. And you remember, no matter what condition, that you have a home. Yeah, that you are here. You just do. And it's that wish for it to stabilize for you, it is stabilized. Being is completely stable in the state of being. It's we that aren't. Yeah. We're trying to take all these blocks and get them aligned and try to manage conditions with the hopes everything was just like 9 a.m. the last day of the retreat, Sunday morning, everything's great. 9:03, one of the things moves. It's all fucked again. Yes, you can't. That which is unstable can't stabilize. It's yes, the mental state is aggravated, agitated. It's desirous. It's hateful. You know, it's adverse to things and it desires things. It's movement all the time. Yeah, that's not. See, this is the peace that passeth that understanding. It doesn't fit itself for this. It negates this. Yeah. And then maybe this finds itself a place to fit, but it negates this. Yeah. So it's worked. That's so humbly. That's why I'm here. Yeah. Really. It's just worked. So the least I could do is pass it on. It doesn't matter if you get it or not. Passing it on is how you have it, so to speak, in a way. As the Course in Miracles says, the best way to get something is to teach it, really. So if you're open to be used, you'll be used. And in that using, shit will occur, yes? You'll be informed of stuff, not in any written letters, but mostly a sense feltness that will take shape and create like frequencies or waves in the frequencies, yeah? And sometimes you get a big tsunami, shit happens. Sometimes you have little waves, yeah? And yet they always produce an effect, yeah? They tremble out. It's pretty cool. So you're not the one that's throwing the rock in the pool or the pond. You're the pond. Something throws the rock in and sets off stuff, yes? And hopefully it leads you to a point of being convinced. So instead of having all these maybe nots and all your attention, interest just wasted down these tributaries, they dry up and you're convinced. And now all that attention and interest that was being sent on all these wild goose chases, yeah, they're here now to deal with what's occurring this day, and the rest of it, they're resting. The interest, the attention is not directed. It's resting here. And to me, that's the presence. That's the feeling of presence. It's interest and attention not being directed. Yeah, I have enough to deal with today. I'm not trying to deal with 2028, nor 1993. Yeah, I'm just here. And there's all that movement that was moving the interest and attention. Yes. Now the interest and attention is affecting that movement. So I'm traveling lighter because the interest, the attention is first. It's not coming, I've got to get everything set up on the surface for my boat to sort of sail. No, the attention and interest is what's holding up the fucking boat. Yeah. So the horse is in front of the cart, and then you see the carts roll from the horse. Instead of trying to figure out the horse from the cart, you see the cart from the horse. Yeah. The being tells you about what's not being. Yeah, it's cool. I mean, now my big goal today is have a latte at Firehouse. And I have enough experience. I've had a latte that I feel pretty assured I'm going to be successful. Yeah. So I'm chilled out. Yeah. I'm not sitting here. Am I going to get that latte? I don't care. I have a sense of I'm going to have a latte. Yeah. I have a sense that I don't have to do anything to you. Yeah. Because we're not talking to you. We're not talking to you. And it's not talking from this you. It's just, I can't miss what I'm aiming at, which is not you. I can figure how much space you take, how far you're able to, I know I can throw over that or this. It doesn't matter. I can't miss everywhere. And I believe you're everywhere. I do. I believe what they say in non-duality, being ourselves reality. I believe what's looking is what you're looking for. I believe the seeker is the sought. Not the sword, sought, S-O-U-G-H-T. I believe that. Not because I want to, I came to those beliefs by opening up through the invitation of non-duality. Seriously, it brought me to a lot of seemingly closed doors, and it brought me to a lot of seeming closets, and there were huge panoramics in there, and it's always been a gateless gate. There's never been a lock on anything. Yeah, yeah. So more's happened to me by doing nothing than all the shit that I did before. Because all the shit I did before, if it had any value, was to lead me to do nothing. Really. So all the doing failed me to such a point, I was convinced that it wasn't going to work anymore. Hallelujah. That's great value. Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. Any questions? Who's running it there?
I'm back.
Oh, Mike, all right. Does anybody wants to ask anything? Is anyone new? Let us know.
Anybody? No? Hands or
It's
new hands?
John from Toronto.
Oh.
Johnny O from Toronto. I'm new to the live broadcast, but it's nice to see you again, Paul, even if it's you're in California. So
Is this
thank
John?
you.
Is
Yes,
this
it is John O from Toronto.
Oh, great, John. How are you?
Great, man. Really nice to see you. I love you with your haircut, man.
I cleaned up. Yes.
Are you growing your hair again?
I am.
Just
I'm
kidding.
working hard. That's why I was late earlier. I went on to my hair growing class. Yeah, I think I did. I see a little. It's gonna grow. I would recommend it to you, but I think it's beyond that point, John, with you.
Yes, it is beyond my point.
It's a
So I
point.
just make points out of the
Then you
hair.
join the Temple of Lost Hairs, which we have a couple of people that are long-time members. Yeah.
We didn't
It's
lose the hair. They fell into our head and choked our minds.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, they're like a reverse fungi.
Yeah.
You see one little root, but the mushroom heads inside. Actually, that's what my sinus looks like with the polyps. When I was young, they had to go in and take out like mushrooms out of my head. Maybe that's how I got the message. Mushroom transmission from the mother. I laid on the ground a lot. On my stomach getting arrested. No. Got it, yes. Hey, nice to see you, John. Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Hello to our
I'm
people in Europe. Yeah.
I'm going down to see Zurich in Puerto Vallarta tomorrow. I'm leaving from Toronto tomorrow for 2 weeks to see our buddy Zurich down there. And he's moving down there, like he's buying a property down there.
Oh, good, great.
Yeah.
Well, tell him I said hello and, yeah.
I will for sure. Thanks, Paul. Yeah.
All right. Anybody else, Mike?
We have one by chat. We have a question by chat. It's actually getting to be one of the more repeated questions. Could Paul explain his metaphor of thief and police? And I'll add on to that because for me, it's like easier to understand in terms of like thief and victim. Somebody stole from me, I'm the victim, or I'm blaming myself for having done something to somebody else. So I'll add on to that question.
All right, well, the thief and policeman, I'm just taking it from the readings I've read with Ramana, so I'll stick with that. And the idea of the thief and the policeman is, in one case, there's the thief that was seemingly using, you to do what it wanted, and then it gets apprehended by the police, and you think that's separate or different than the thief, but it's the thief once again using you for its own agenda, just wearing a different uniform. So basically, the recognition of what you're not is going to be claimed by what you're not. So if you can see two aspects of it, there's the sense of none of them. Yeah, but if you only get to see one, now you feel like you know the thief from the policeman, but then living the policeman life seems to suck. I know for me, it brought the word perfection into it again, so you have to sit on the meditation, pushing longer than anyone, keep your back straight. It was gotten like a big stick up my ass. So I actually seemed attractive to go back to the thief, fucking get loaded and do, at least I had some fun. So, you know what I mean? So the aspect is, part of the antics of self will get objectified by the subjective aspect of self. Yeah, so now the policeman has the thief under surveillance. So you're watching yourself all day, which is fucking worse than the thief, really. Yeah. So that to me is the policeman and thief. You send a policeman to catch the thief, and the policeman's like a second cousin to the thief. It's the same head, yeah? So it's self trying to get out of self. There's two aspects of it, which is the duality of things, yes? So when you get an aspect and you see self, but you only see one side of it, I'm guaranteeing you the other side is at work, believing it's the one who saw the first aspect of self. So the second aspect that's observing the first one is self also. Policeman, thief, self and self. Victim, thief, whatever. Yes? It's always a two. See, there's something that's going on unobserved. It becomes aware of, and now you're observing something, and then that observing gets claimed to be the observer, and now you're stuck at this identification. So there's the thievery, then there's the identification as a thief, then there's the policing, and then there's identification as the policeman. The bondage is the thief and the policeman. Yes, that's where you get stuck. And so a lot of people end up stopping at I know the thief now. They don't understand that that's a policeman aspect. And that's why it's not translating into traveling light or of joy or peace. And they're fucking wondering why. Yeah, because that message has been claimed. Yeah, and what claims it sort of neuters it, not purposely, it just does, because it sees more like a parasitical vision, which is, what can this do for me? It's not looking as a way of expressing through that it's claimed. It wants to use it for itself. Yeah, so self wants to be the liver of this life. Yeah, so it wants to be the noun that no other noun is placed before. It's like the Old Testament God, really, if you listen to it, where the Old Testament God, I'm jealous of all gods, don't put any other God before. It sounds like the head to me. Yes, I'm going to smoke you. It's just insane. Then they came up with a New Testament God that was much more sort of nicer, okay. But the Old Testament sounded like one motherfucker, really. Yeah. Job, I'm going to fucking, make you have, you know what I mean? You'd have to keep making deals and breaking them and stuff. Sound like that. Yeah, so we may be, people may have been listening to the head, and the head plays God. We have that in recovery big time. So the head is playing God, and I think the Old Testament has a lot of head playing God. Seriously, so. All right, is that helpful? I hope not. The point, you get confused, and then one day you'll see it. You'll see it. It's not based on me seeing it. One day you'll see it. Just listen to these things, because it's not the thing that's being said. There's something in there. Satsang gives us an infusion. You know, you ever get those infusions, like herbal infusions and stuff? You don't know what's going on, but after a few months, you feel fucking great. Yeah, just believe there's an herbal infusion going on. Yes. Yeah, and I've seen the potency of satsang. I've watched it in my own life and watched it in others. So it doesn't matter. See, the delivery has already been made. Yeah. So basically, what's being suggested is already so. So however it's going to work for you is going to be how it works. You could read, I could tell you to go home and read 3 pages of K in the telephone book. And maybe you'd come to some plumber and wake up. You never, it doesn't have anything to do with any kind of logic. But satsang is a very powerful atmosphere that we're sharing. Yes. So I realized I haven't done anything to promote my quote unquote spiritual health in years. Literally. The only thing I do is come to talks. And lattes. So basically, this is what got me was even conscious. If you look at consciousness, whatever that is, that's, giving us this life through the gates of seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching, it became obvious to me that which is whatever that is doing this through this doesn't seem to be doing it with any thought or effort. I don't seem to be sweating, seeing, I mean, I don't go to seeing classes. And unless I have bad eyes, I don't, I look at saint pictures all day. No, there's just seeing. So I just can't believe, why would we believe that which demonstrates no thought and effort in being itself, that we could arrive there through thought and effort? It just makes no fucking sense to me. It's too simple. So the pledging allegiance to the failed system is the only way something's going to happen is through doing. And that's not the case when it comes to being. So that doing that may have been your great benefactor for this life isn't going to work in this topic, because the topic has one strange bent nothing else has, which is it's you. Yeah. We're not saying you can become this. We're not saying you left it and you can go back to it. We're saying right now, that's that. You're it. Yeah. And there's no effort and thought to arrive at where I already am. Is there?
Remember when years ago, I used to, about 4 or 5 times every few weeks, I'd ask about practice. Because I really wanted you to say, it's okay to practice or something like that. Plus I was practicing. But I just realized, just before you said the medicine thing, but it's the same thing, is if whatever I do, which ostensibly sometimes includes spiritual practices, if it's I'm no more attached to it than taking an aspirin when I have a headache, then how could that, that's it. That's where it's fine. It's not an interruption. It's when because a lot of what you talk about is, and truly so, is how attached people get to their practice and how they think that it's going to get them somewhere, etc. But there's also practice like medicines, like life, like drinking a latte. They're just part of your life. They just kind of happen.
Yes, see, with the spiritual practices, I don't believe anyone is doing anything with that. The head does. And you notice something. When I was young, I noticed the head gave a lot of importance to spirituality more than having a coffee. or
I'm
more
talking
than
about
going to a
spiritual
thrift
practice.
store. Going to a temple had a lot more meaning being
Yeah.
injected into that than going to a thrift store. That's why I go to thrift stores now.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah,
So, yeah, so I saw that, and what the head gives meaning, a lot of its manifestations are gonna be around,
Well, the
which is,
danger-
it usually arrives at some level of addiction
Yeah.
through whatever form it's obsessing over, yes?
it's just one of the dangers you want to make.
But
us aware of.
exactly, see, this is the beauty of it. So I saw this firsthand. And I saw it firsthand. Wait a minute. I remember I'd be practicing and a friend of mine would want me to do some beautiful thing, right? Oh, no, I have no time. I have to keep my practice on. It got a little
Right.
absurd, yes.
Yeah, it is.
So there was an identifying with it, and this is what we point out. I think spiritual practices are incredible skillful means. Like if I have the blood pressure go up, if I sit for a few minutes quietly and follow the breath, it brings the blood pressure down.
Right.
Fucking great. Am I planning to get to, become a chariot of the gods and go to heavens? No.
Yeah.
I just want to have a quality of life now. And a lot of things people call spiritual, I find have skillful means when they're applied. Now, the beautiful thing is where there's an application, but there's no applier. And this is what happens with a lot of spirituality, you finally arrive there through a lot of spirituality. You finally arrive at, there's always being an applier of that which is applied.
Right.
And therefore it had great value. Yes. So then you realize that has failed, and hallelujah.
Right.
Because then you stop looking for what can't be found. And now you're here because there's no other possibility of being anywhere else. I mean, seriously. All the mental little dead ends and little excursions and little rest stops, they have been canceled. You're on the highway, and where you used to turn in, you can't turn in anymore, and you're just going. Yeah. Always incessantly on, not having to be moron or be a moron. Which I can do easily. So this is going, yeah. And because all that finds offense, or hey, wait a minute, let me know this, or I got to study this. No, that stuff has been blown off. All the fake skin has been blown off in the verbiage. Yeah, yeah. So if you need to do shit to make you feel better, the physical, emotional, nervous, mental condition, yeah, do it. I had it had become something else in my life.
I think it does for most people.
Yes, there was a lot of, yeah.
It
So,
just seems that way. I mean, there's some people I talk to that do it. It seems that way.
and the funniest thing is we have the experience of placebo, yeah.
Well,
So this is a dreaming. You can, if you took 500 pills of salt and then 500 pills of the medicine, they could both produce the same effects.
yeah.
So of course, it's the dreaming that comes before everything. So notice how the dreaming is for you. What does your head put a lot of meaning in? And because that's where it's going to coagulate. Its manifestations of this insanity are going to be obvious in those areas. And so you recognize something. The whole point isn't the information, is what it triggers a recognition. Yeah, you see the living example that's being put out there. It's not written on paper, you feel it, you recognized it. I remember I had this great privilege in recovery to do 4-step workshops, which is the beginning of the working steps of recovery. And they come from a chapter of How It Works in the big book of AA. So I looked at this paragraph tons of times, and one day I saw it, and I saw the word self as foreign. Completely foreign. So it was being convinced. Yes, I had gotten a flavor of that because I had spent 2 years in a program, and then when I left, I went back out. So I was convinced of certain things. The life convinced me this wasn't going to work, but I didn't know what fucking else to do. Yeah, so I had been convinced that any life on my, I wasn't managerial quality. Let's put it that way. So I was being convinced self, manifested in various ways. So self, yes, manifested in various ways, very important. Connected to self. Self manifested in various ways is what has defeated us. This is the diagnosis of recovery, one of them. All right, self, not drinking, that's one how it uses that to defeat you, but it's this idea of self, this ideation of this person, yes? So self manifested in various ways is what has defeated us. Are you convinced of that? I was, thank God. So that's why I'm sober, actually. I was convinced of that, yeah? All right, we are now going to look at selves. It says ITS, but it implies selves. Common manifestations. Okay, very simple diagnosis. Next paragraph goes right into it. Resentment. Resentment is a common manifestation of self. So we're not going to go into the subtleties. We're going to look at some of the big thumbs that stick out. Self, resentment, fear, and harms done to others pursuing what you want. Pretty broad. Yeah, let's just look at them to see what? To see how self defeated us. Us is something other than self. Yeah, this is not clear in our community a lot. Self, because people, when they look at resentments, they call them my resentments, which is the act of being identified as self.
Recovery.
The recovery community, yes, and fear, my fear, the active identified itself, because they're self's manifestations. Why are you calling them yours? Something must happen when you read it and it translates, because it's very clearly saying self manifests this shit. How does it become yours in like less than a paragraph? How? Quick move, yeah? Stubborn motherfucker too, stubborn. So now what I saw, when I saw self as foreign, I saw resentments as resentments, and I've never not seen them as that. Fear, I see mostly as mental anxiety. I don't see it as fear at all. Mental anxiety that mimics a sense of fear, but triggers a little of it, yeah? And harms done to others in pursuit of what I wanted, yeah? Very clear. Pamela, these are manifestations of self in my life. What happened? Translated into traveling lighter. More and more time this was in place, less and less thought and effort going on. Yes? Any distance that was between me and peace got diminished quite quickly. Peace is this, yeah? As soon as I saw the foreignness, that idea was there. Non-duality came and established the living of that idea. Yeah, it gave me, it was like a light that illuminated all the paths that I was on. So life is a path, recovery is a path. So I wasn't looking for illumination anymore. I was the illuminating factor to everything. Fucking much different, much freaking different. You start living like this, what happens? Find out. But what happened in this case, there's been sometimes a quick or gradually traveling lighter where it didn't change everything. It may have. Life has in store for me what it does, but I traveled lighter through whatever it has in store for me for a long, long period of time with very, very, very little skillful means necessary.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
Pretty sweet, yes.
Incremental.
Yeah, because I would like to, I don't want to master shit. I want to outgrow it, to tell you the truth. And if I grew into it, that could be re-engineered. So if I see because when I was a kid, my interest and attention was not up in my head until I started thinking around 5 or 6. Then it got absorbed in this image of Paul and was thought about all the time. It wasn't when I was a kid. I was fucking bright and things were alive and everything. Something grew and started to take the attention and interest and never gave it back, really. And I tried to get it back by shooting dope and shit, and I'd get a rush, but it always would be there, and it got worse and worse. The bondage of self is one of its strongest links is trying to get out of it, which I had no idea of. I thought it made complete sense to try to get out of self. I didn't realize what was trying to get out of self is self. Blew my mind when I saw that. Yeah. Seriously, not just saw it, it fucking got established, so to speak. Yeah. Yeah. And so lightness started to avail. And the more like that became, the less, more relaxed and disarming it was. Yeah, because I am what I'm looking for, so I'm not looking for it. I'm looking for coffee and other shit that I can find. I'm not looking for I am, yeah. So yeah, this is the whole point, and it's a traveling lighter. And if whatever's important to you, I mean, I would love to be a great meditator, but I wasn't cut out for it, I guess. Yeah. And if I didn't get run over, I was doing Tai Chi, I probably would have continued Tai Chi because I like doing that. There's no problem. It was the meaning that the shit was given. Yeah. That I, Paul, was going to transcend me, Paul. Either, and they were both the same Paul. Yes. That was surprising. Yeah, and it was nice to see because I was looking from it for a long freaking time, seemingly. And now I can see the head hasn't changed at all. It's still looking from that. But I'm not aligned with it. That's the whole point. This isn't about you changing. It's seeing you're not that you and losing interest in it. This dog ain't gonna learn any new tricks. It doesn't. It's not like gonna be my service animal. It's not gonna be my amigo. I see it for what it is, and it ain't me. And that's all the news I need to know. Yeah, I'm not into the 11th dimension. I could care less. It's just here, just having a chilled outness and being assured with no real evidence to be assured. But being assured. Yeah. To me, this is the knowledge of satsang. Yeah, it's not acquired. Hopefully, by hearing satsang, it will trigger because it's already there. It's like what we call in AA an unsuspected inner resource. It's an inner resource. It may be unsuspected. We'd like you to become, to suspect it, and then it will trigger, and you'll be your own evidence. Yeah, you'll see it.
You're a pretty simple guy, right?
Ask me, you should have.
Yeah, can ask Amelia. Simple meaning dementia is on the horizon. Yeah, I'd say that. I'm on moving towards dementia.
Stupid or lower IQ, just like.
I'm moving into dementia. That's my next. No, I think I'm gonna be in a childlike phase for quite a while, and then dementia will kick in. I'm enjoying it while I can. Really? No, seriously. If weaken the idea of the thinker, and then the thoughts will weaken. Try to weaken the thoughts, the thinker idea gets strengthened. So just weaken the idea of the thinker and the thoughts won't be taken as seriously as they used to be. It's true, that's how it works. Yeah. Don't try to manage all your feelings, just see you're not the feeling. Yeah, so you can be surprised and amazed, really, not always. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's just once the truth tells you it's true. The falsehood tells you it's true. But you come to realize the falsehoods weren't true. You'll come to realize this truth is true. Yeah. It's not the commerce of truth that's being bought and sold. It is true. The falsehood is busily being sold constantly by the head. This stands in and of itself. Yeah. And it doesn't matter because you knowing it or not knowing it doesn't change the facts. You're gonna end, you know what? Just like when you go to sleep, there's so many parts of when you're asleep, you're not there. And that's actually being here the most. And I feel like when you leave, it's gonna be like you never happened, to tell you the truth. Because I've overdosed a lot and been in comas a lot with the getting run over by the cars. There's a lot of period in this life that I was completely absent, and it doesn't seem to have anything to do with this movie. Seriously. So I just don't, yeah. It's nice to be able to travel with a little bit of that now. I mean, traveling lighter is the most valuable thing in this place because you've got to, each day, it's like a parade, it's like a march, isn't it? You get up and then there's things you do and then, yes,
Are you supposed to be in here today?
yes.
I have to get some, I'm so sorry.
We'll be over in what, 5 minutes? How's that? Yeah, we were supposed to be here we weren't here on March 4th for the wedding.
Well, I was told you weren't supposed to be in here, so.
No, no one told us that. Obviously, we are. Yeah,
What did you say?
I said, obviously, no, I didn't hear from Don or anyone. Yeah, we would have canceled if you heard us, told us. But we can end it now. Thank God. you paid, Thank God. Oh, we have to end the meeting. I hate to bring it to a close.
Oh, yeah.
No, again, the church needs the place.
No question, no.
All the heathens, we have to leave. So let's say goodbye, Mike, seriously. And I want to make a couple announcements, all right?
Yeah.
I want to talk about, and can we put it up, the talk up in Auburn at the last weekend of this month, March, yes?
Oh, it's for March? Okay, yeah.
But so can you put that up?
No.
No?
it's,
Or the first weekend in April?
the second of April.
Oh, 1st and 2nd April. Yes, Saturday and Sunday. Yes. If that could come up, that would be great. And then we also have the trip going to Sicily in October. So, yeah. Everyone can look at that. And if you want to come, it's the second retreat, Italian retreat we're having. It's going to be a tradition until I enter dementia. So get me in my childlike stage. All right. No one wants to change an old person's diaper, do they? No, not at the retreat.
If you think, well.
Hey, Walter, nice to see you. Walter's been very silent lately. I'm taking that as a good sign. You got your hair cut and everything. Jeez. Kerry, as always, nice to see you. Hey, can you pass the basket, Chris? Where did he go? Oh, he left already. Got to get these guys. Hey, Beth. Nice to see you, Beth. Kerry, as always. John S. in Florida. Can you hear me, John? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks, Paul.
All right. We got Mike C next to Mike Z.
Mhm.
Nice to see you, Mike. Tariq, I'm coming to Dover, Tariq. Better, yeah, late May maybe, or June. Andy, nice to see you, Andy.
One-handed applause.
Hmm?
One-handed applause.
Yes. George, iPad, nice to see you. You're on Sweden, nice to see you, Yoran.
Nice to see you,
Great,
Paul.
Minneapolis.
Hey.
John Clay, formerly known as Jeb, formerly known as Jed. Now known as John. Jack, nice to see Jack. Chris H. Alan Olson, nice to see you, Alan. Yeah, Chris B. Nice. Mike. Mike goes to sleep usually. It's nice. I watch him fall asleep at the meetings. He's asleep now. James Olson. Lori. Ike. Shannon C. Nice to see Shannon. Grateful Dave. Mickey, the matriarch of Madeira. It's always a pleasure to see you, have you in the space. We've got April, we're coming on your month soon. Alan, nice to see Alan there. Roman, as always, and Barbara. Wow. The exotic bird of Barbara isn't seen often. Yes, we caught a day. We got Moni, Lindy, Anu, as always, Christine, Kalua. Yeah, somewhere in Hawaii. Eh?
Hawaii, yeah. Aloha, Kona.
Oh, in Kona. Nice to see you,
Yeah.
Christine.
Aloha.
I think Kerry's in Kona also. Up in the top. Zoe, as always. Nice to see you. Miranda, Mia from Australia. Yeah, we miss you, Mia.
Yeah.
Or is it just the chocolates and the gluten-free biscottis? Nah, of course not. Kathleen, there's Kathleen. I think we're gonna see you one day sooner or later. Vlad, as always, nice to see you, Vlad. Emerson from Long Beach, Sally, Irene, Susan H. Hey, thanks. We had a nice group today. Hey, thank you so much for having us. We got to, we're getting evicted from the church. Yeah.